Hey crafty people, it's Tasha. Welcome to my channel. Today I am super happy to be joining the fun and festivities with Altenew, celebrating their reaching a fabulous decade of inspiration, innovation and creativity. For my project, I decided to shop my stash and grab some of my favourite Altenew products and see what I could come up with. So I've got various inks. I've always loved that Altenew offer ink families with 4 shades of a colour, and they carried this through with their new fresh dye inks. CAF Peruvian Lily, which is the first crafter flower I ever had. Sentiment strips, stamp set and die to cut one out, and this is an absolute staple. And the angled Mosaic 3D embossing folder, because their geometric ones are incredible. I'm also using 2 packs of their gorgeous glitter cardstocks. Let's start with the background. I've got a large blending brush, which is another one of my absolute favourites, and I'm using Mountain Mist, which is the lightest shade of the Seashore collection. I'm blending that onto the top right hand corner of a 4¼ by 5½ inch A2 panel of Nina Solar White 80 £, and I'm bringing it down, fading out to white. I wiped my glass mat and then flipped the panel so that I can add some pink now. Now, I do love these new fresh dye inks, but speaking as a disabled crafter, I do find them really hard to open. The round shape means that I can't really get a very good grip on it, and the lids kind of need to screw on quite tight or they can come loose. So I did just want to mention that in case it's something that you think that you might struggle with also. I'm adding Rose Quartz, which is the lightest shade of the Rose Petal collection, onto the opposite corner. I wanted to get both areas kind of mapped out with the lightest shades, and now that I've got that, I can work through the shades on the pink side before cleaning my glass mat to complete the teal sides. I want the strongest colour to be right in the corner, but I also want it to be quite a smooth transition through to the lightest. So I always make sure that I work back down through the shades to really help get that ombre blend. Going from the darkest shades though, I need to clean off my brush and wipe my mat because they will take over those lighter shades really easily. So I just make sure that I've taken any leftover ink out of my brush before going back to the lighter shades. I'm loving how that ink blending came out. This already looks beautiful, but let's up the interest with that angled Mosaic 3D embossing folder. Just look at that. Stunning. I can't get over how much detail that folder adds. It is one of my favourite ways to step up an ink blended background. Another fun way to step up this background is adding black splatter, and I love this watercolour brush marker for that. Now I'll set this aside to dry and work on that gorgeous crafter flower, which will be my focal element for this design. To save a little time on camera, I've already die cut all of the pieces, and I've done it with some double-sided adhesive on the back of each piece, and that's just going to make it loads easier to put the whole thing together. I'll post all of the names of the cardstocks that I've used for each little bit in my full supplies list over on my blog. But for these leaves, I cut the base piece and the first layer from the same grey, and I'm darkening the latter with some ink. So this is going to sit on the light grey base, and then I'm completing my leaf with the top layer in black. Having that adhesive already on each piece makes it so quick and easy to layer them, and I'm just going to place them under this ceramic dish to hold them together whilst the adhesive really sets in. For the stamen, you have two pieces, and the bottom layer becomes the pollen bits on the end, and I want to have those yellow, and then the stem bits get layered on top, and I want to have those black. So to stop the bright yellow showing underneath the black parts, I'm just going through colouring it with a marker, making sure that I get the sides too, and then I can stick the layers together and set that aside for now with the leaves. Moving on to the main bulk of the flower, there's a base piece that you only really see through the little dots on some of the petals, so I've done that in black. Then the next layer is Moonstone Glitter Cardstock, and it's super easy to put these together by just lining up the edges. Then I've got Nina Solar White being the third layer, which again has a lot of the same edges, making it really easy. I want to keep the flower really neutral to contrast that vibrant background, but I thought that these little detail pieces were a good place to add just a little bit of colour. But to keep it really pale though, I grabbed my Fairy Dust glitter cardstock for these. You can line up the petal bits because they sit right on those little dots, and then the other piece lines up with the base of the flower itself. The stamen are a little bit fiddly because of their size, and I want to make sure that they don't come away, so I am adding a little bit of liquid glue on there too. They sit right in this little spot, and then the last piece sits across. It actually goes off the edge of the main flower because it's actually forming the edge of the petal that would be closest to us. Now that I've got that all pieced together, I'm putting it underneath my little trinket dish again whilst it all grips. Let's work on the sentiment. I've chosen one which will fit inside one of the strips that my die will cut. I'm stamping it with my obsidian black for a really crisp finish. Now I'm cutting it out with this die, taping that into place to make sure I get a lovely, straight and evenly placed sentiment. It actually cuts several strips as it's meant to go with a different sentiment set. So I'm going to be using a couple of them to go behind the strip, and that's going to strengthen it. I've completed all of the bits that I originally planned to use, but I'm not fully loving how this looks. The flower gets kind of lost against that bold background, so I'm adding a few extra elements that are going to provide a little bit of a buffer between the two. Starting with some circle dies, and I'm cutting it from black cardstock. At first I was thinking of doing them kind of equal, but I actually really like this offset look, and that's going to give us lots more choices on where to actually place my flower. Once I've got that cut, I'm also cutting the same shape from double-sided adhesive foam, which gives me some more dimension. Now, I didn't quite line them up perfectly, so I just trimmed off any of that foam that was showing with my mini snips. Now, this can sit on my background, and that's going to ground my flower, so it kind of isn't just floating about. I'm also cutting some smaller circles that I'll use as embellishments. Then, after trimming my background down to 4 by 5¼ inches, I'm adding it to an A2 card base with some foam tape for extra dimension. I'm adhering the black ring onto some vellum, and then I'll just trim around the edges. So this is really thin vellum, like really thin. I purchased it expecting to get regular vellum, but this is what I received. Oh, it's not good. It's no good to me for a lot of techniques that I would usually use vellum for, but it is good for this kind of thing because it's not going to obscure that background at all. I've got foam adhesive behind my flower, and I'm also adding some liquid glue where I know that it's going to overlap the black ring. Then I'm putting it in place using my reverse action tweezers. I want to slot my leaves in, having one either side, but I don't like how far this one is coming out, so I'm trimming some of it to let me put it in closer to the flower. You can't tell at all that it's been trimmed once it's in place, and this is one of my top tips for arranging die cuts like this. Never be afraid to give them a quick trim. To support those leaves, I've got foam adhesive on, but I just added liquid adhesive where it's going to overlap that ring. To make sure that it's hidden, I've added my liquid adhesive behind the flower, behind the leaves and the black ring. Then I can press this into place on my background. My sentiment strip is overlapping, so again I'm using a combination of liquid and foam adhesive. I've positioned my smaller circles in a similar way to how I like to place any kind of embellishments, and I really like the visual of having that grouping of 3. To pick up the glitter in the lily, I'm using a Wink of Stella brush to make that smallest circle sparkly. I love how this turned out, and it was so much fun going through my Altenew supplies to pick out some of my favourites to use. Congratulations to Altenew on this huge milestone, and I'm sending you love and light for many, many more years to come. Don't forget to check below for details on entering to win some of the $3,500 worth of prizes that are available. If you aren't already subscribed to my channel, please do consider hitting that button, and it would mean so much to me if you would share this video to any of your crafty friends. Have a lovely, happy, safe and wonderful week. Stay crafty. Bye.